Warning, the video you're about to see for YouTube is disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello there and welcome to the part 3 of the weird and surreal iceberg chart. Again, if you're tired of the same old cookie cutter gaming formulas and seeking a deeper dive into the world of gaming, you come to the right place, because this layer is really getting out of hand. We'll be looking at the weird spin-off of Super Mario games, games that criticize the meat industry, to games that try to put you in the shoes of a mentally ill person. Everything is covered here. This video will also cover half of the layer because the layer 3 is somewhat big. I hope you don't mind that. So make yourself comfy, brew a coffee or grab a beer and let's dive in. And if you find this video interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe. This helps the channel a lot. And I won't bother you with a boring intro. I know you wanna see some surreal games. So let's explore part 3 of the iceberg chart. But before we start, I want to express my gratitude for tuning in. So thank you and enjoy this video. Mario, the music box. This layer starts again with the RPG Maker game. This obviously means that the game is an unlicensed game, and I hope that Nintendo don't try to sue the guy who made this game. But back to Mario, the music box is one of the best out there apparently. In the story, Mario finds a mansion in which people who go inside never come back. Mario and Princess Peach were supposed to investigate a strange place, but Mario decided to go alone. Inside the home, he finds a strange music box that was playing by itself. A little does he know that a harmless music box would cause the home to try to eat him alive. The gameplay focuses heavily on exploration, puzzle solving and clue gathering. The game was inspired by Corpse Party. The game has also a ton of illustrations of Mario, which makes the game feel like a proper title. But also I need to warn you because it's a bit graphic. Please keep in mind that this game isn't perfect, but again, if this game sounds interesting, it's free and you can try it out if you wanna.
Crypt Worlds.
This creator stated that in our world you can die at any time, for no reason whatsoever. That single fact has acted as the primary inspiration for the game. This is a game where you're gonna meet Indiana Jones and you will wonder what the hell is going on. I mean, this will be an ongoing thing from now on, I think. The plot of the game is you will need to find certain relics, 5 in total, and bring them back to the unicorn goddess, so you can defeat a creature called Dendigar. The game has an old look to it, but it looks clean. The game is also a quite adventure to dive in if you're into weird games. But you probably are if you clicked on this video. So let's go to the next one.
Everything is going to be okay.
The first thing is a warning for you guys who are maybe sensitive to bright lights, but also flashing lights, because this game will push some triggers in that department. Now to the game. Well, imagine a desktop that offers you an array of out of order interactive pages. The game, even if it's called Everything is Going to Be Okay, is more about how the creator of the game knows that you're not so okay. The game is abstract and weird in many ways. Some of the scenes are actually based on traumas that the creator went through. The game truly makes you feel understood.
La Fantabulous game and other egg-likes.
This is about games that are considered egg-likes, so this was completely new for me. To make you more familiar with the subject of egg-likes, well, it's pretty simple. They are walking simulators, but worse, and they are egg-like. The LS3 emulator can be described as an egg-like game. La Fantabulous game was released in 2013, which was self-identified as an egg-like game. Egg-like game defines that games possesses a full bag of weirdness, and they often use references about pop culture and memes all over the place, and pursuing the player to look for more references.
Bad Castle.
This game is a Zelda-like game. Bad Castle is an indie game created by Alex Porter using again RPG Maker. The game tries to tackle the typical stereotype found in the RPG Maker community, and it tries to offer a unique and innovative gaming experience, like many others on this list I guess. The story of Bad Castle revolves around romance, revenge and potential redemption. The exact agenda and motives of the character Bad are shrouded in mystery, adding intrigue and suspense to the storyline. Bad Castle aims to be a true art game, offering a fresh perspective and pushing the boundaries of what can be achieved with RPG Maker.
Goblet Grotto
Is a game created by Irish developer The Catamatis. The game was hand-driven with a pencil scribble graphics, so to say, and almost everything is black and white. Everything you see looks like a cardboard cutout, so basically it's 2D. The Grotto story is weird, and it's utterly insane mashup of areas that make little to no sense on their own. The gameplay is pretty simple. You play with a character limited with a single attack, only capable of asking questions but not talking back, and lacking any shops, inventory or even a map. However, this is compensated by the game's world being absolutely huge and bizarre and full of random stakes that rarely, if even, matches up with each other but stays memorable regardless.
Funny Pizza Land.
This game was made in 2002, but there are some claims that this game was made between 2012 and 2015 and was made a retro-looking game that adopted a weird retro style, to be ahead, so to say, of the boom of the retro-looking indie games. The game is supposed to be an interactive painting. It's marketed as a surreal adventure game with a dark atmosphere. Boo-hoo. The game is also quite short and you can finish it in 30 minutes. The game is really clunky and hard to look at. If you wanna call it artistic, I don't know, it's up to you. Overall, it's a third-person walking simulator set in a weird world, with a numbing loop soundtrack.
Magic Dwindles Games.
This is a list of Surreal games released for various consoles. The games are quite bizarre and weird. There aren't any other explanations, and there is a whole bunch of them. This is quite a rabbit hole to dive in. It is interesting how some of the entries are a rabbit hole to dive in. I mean, there is a game called Ticket where you play as a shoe looking like a 2D Mario game, which has also a disturbing cry featured in the game for whatever reason. The games also look like they're made in paint. The gameplay isn't the most original, but the puzzles are somewhat interesting. And the one thing that keeps the game going is the fact that the Shu needs to fight his nemesis, and that's the devil. Again, this looks like an interesting rabbit hole to dive in.
Blom Coast Games.
Like the previous guy on the list, Blom Coast Games is another developer who makes games. Again, there are a few games on the list, so you can check them out. One of them was quite interesting, and that's Bemis, The Curse of God, where you play a cute looking bee. Even again, the game looks like it was made in paint, but this time I found the art style to be nice. It's a 2D shoot 'em up game. The game can be annoying because there isn't any auto fire button and you need to press shoot like a lunatic, but again, the game is quite good. Another game from the list is a weird game that makes you, let's say, play a classic NFL game. It has even featured the classic EA intro, but of course it's a parody. It's quite a bizarre game and it features a pretty nostalgic soundtrack.
Museum of Anything Goes.
This is an educational game / project that was made in 1995, but sadly it was lost in time. Developed by Michael Markowski and Maxwell S. Robinson, this was an interactive showcase for PC and Mac, and it's truly a relic of the past. Having little to no web presence only makes this strange project even weirder. The game is wacky. It's a first-person walking simulator where you explore various places around the museum and play various minigames that are built in. Generally, the interaction in the games consists of clicking on paintings, watching compressed animations, cutscenes, dragging things around, doing activities and listening to sound clips. But again, the game is very bizarre and it has a special vibe to it, like like no other game. The game was also featured in an infamous stream even put on YouTube, where the popular YouTuber Vinesauce was in a rather bad situation, and that's because the game has a certain scene that shows a dead body. Well, some claim that the carcass were just that of a pig, but some claim it was of a human, but it's hard to be sure.
Go home.
This game is something special. The game was made in 2009, but the settings is in the early 2000s. Go Home is a survival game in which the player takes the role of a 7-year-old Masakyo Suzuki who has been separated from her parents during a time where the family was going to a local shrine, and she needs to find her way home, which of course isn't an easy task. The weird thing is also that the faces of the young Masakyo are blurred, which is so odd I can't really describe it. I somehow dig the cool art style, but the game is hard but more unforgiving because death lurks behind every corner.
Milk inside a bag of milk inside a bag of milk.
I know this sounds already quite weird, but this is actually the name of the next game we are going to talk about. This is a visual novel inside a game, clocking it about 20 minutes. The objective is simple. It's a visual novel game where you play as a girl who is going to the store to buy milk. This is the simplest way to describe the game, but there is a twist to the game. The game is about mental illnesses and also lactose intolerance. Everything you see to the protagonist's eyes, and colors and shapes are distorted and often blurring together with other items. The game overall tone has a very distressing vibe and it's pretty unsettling. It's a game that really sets you into the shoes of a character in the right way. Sadly, it portrays you how tough it can be to somebody to complete even the easiest tasks.
Insert coin maze.
This is about a game where you play a cube trapped into a maze and you need to figure your way out. And that's it more or less. I would tell you that the game has a sinister level hidden deep away, but I couldn't find anything, so I'm not sure why the game is so deep. If anyone has some more info about the game, comment down below, guys.
You are my home.
The game revolves that you're finding a game, or better to say a unlabeled cartridge in front of your door, and the only thing on your mind is of course to put the game in your console and to play the game and see what it is about. Suddenly on the screen appears a pixelated animal girl with a bunch of personal questions, like do you know your life shouldn't be this way, and are you even happy? I mean, it's weird. After you complete the minigames, the girl will ask you to go out. And the more you play, you actually realize that the game is more about stalking. How the girl is breaking into the house and tries to steal a baby. The game dives into the creepypasta element and it's disturbing for sure.
Chainsaw Mythos series.
The Chainsaw Mythos series is a collective title given to a series of 4 amateur adventure games created by Ben Crossaw using the Adventure Game Studio development tool. The games in order are 5 Days a Stranger, 7 Days a Skeptic, Tribli's Nose, and 6 Days a Sacrifice. They are freeware adventure horror games and they are all connected in some ways. In 5 Days Stranger, players control the cat burglar Tribly, who encounters a demonic force resembling a mass killer, trapped in an abandoned mansion with a group of strangers. Inspired by Nocturnal Illusion, they are targeted one by one. 7 Days Skeptic emulates the claustrophobic horror of Alien, with a spaceship crew discovering artifacts from the first game 400 years later. Tribly Notes takes place in a hotel existing in both the real world and the terrifying alternative dimension, exploring the origin of the cursed African idol. While the first 2 games use point-and-click interfaces, Tribly Notes requires keyboard movement and text-based comments. 6 Days a Sacrifice completes the set chronologically. It's set between 5 days and 7 days. And Tribly The Art of Theft, a later game, featured the character's earlier exploits but story-wise and gameplay-wise separated from the other series. Again, a quite interesting rabbit hole.
Space Kids.
This little gem is from 1994 and it's a MS-DOS game. The game is basically a collection of mini-games, something like the Wario games which we already covered, but these mini-games don't have any set time limit. This is a kid's game, but it's quite bizarre. I would definitely get nightmares as a kid from these characters, especially from the moon. It has just a weird stare. The game revolves around two characters named Zidl and Deet, who embark on a journey to Earth in a living UFO to locate their famous grandfather, a space explorer who ventured to Earth without them. As they navigate through the game, their spaceship named Saucer encounters various characters and sceneries. This game has also branching paths, which can lead to different endings. 50 short games. It is hard to guess or even get a grasp of what this game is. I mean, I had that problem and I started googling around and I was amazed to see that the collection of 50 short mini games, it was a game made by the same developer we talked about on this layer called Gadamite, which made the game Goblet Growler and Space Funeral. So how to describe this game collection? It's weird, randomly chaotic and sometimes not even playable. Hand-draw is the art direction and sometimes the game has weird and aggressive music. I don't know if you want to play this or not, it is what it is. Cookies. The previous game wasn't self-explanatory and this game isn't also. You don't play as a cookie to our disappointment, but it's equally good. The game Cookie sets you in the shoes of a paranoid drug dealer wandering the walls of an old apartment building after evading cops. Well, hey, almost good as playing as a cookie. The game has also a warning that the game includes some violence and other stuff in it, just to be warned. Cookies has the filthy PlayStation 1 aesthetic to it. However, its filthiness extends beyond its visuals. Within the game, every character you encounter is either exploiting others or being exploited. This game is really something you wanna check out, especially for its low price of $0. Pennsylvania Gigglebone Gang Games. Like the Museum of Anything Goes, this is also a series of educational games from the 1990s. The first game in the series was Elroy Goes Bugzerg, 1995. PC Gamer US named Elroy Goes Bugzerg the best educational product of 1995. The editors wrote, "The game's sense of humor is perfectly aimed at its intended audience, and the story is well written and engaging." Elroy Goes Bugzerg does a better job of hiding educational content in an entertaining game than any other title from 1995. Pennsylvania is hard to describe. I mean, yes, you can learn something from the game and it can be helpful, but I guess the distinct 90s vibe in the game is the reason why this game is worth being on the list. Surreal Experiments Lion. I'm a huge PlayStation 1 fan. I mean, that's the reason why I started this channel. It is also the system I grew up with, and I love how I stumble upon games that I didn't know about. And Surreal Experiments Lion is just that, one obscure and surreal game released on November 26, 1998 for the PlayStation 1. Utakata is a network simulator designed by Konaka and Yasayuki as an interactive experiment to explore a lion's story. While the creators didn't classify it as a game, they referred to it as a psycho stretch where the objective was to immerse the player into the sensation of navigation through vast amounts of information and having to make sense of it with limited resources. Similar to the anime, the primary intention of the creative team was to evoke emotional connections to Leon, understanding his struggles, and fostered a sense of affection for her character. The gameplay is close to a visual novel, and the player is limited to unlocking pieces of information and then reading, viewing, listening to them, with little or no puzzles needed to unlock. Mitosa. This is a weird one. The best way to describe this game is about a journey which begins with a simple seed, and in each round you are faced with two options. The fate of this ordinary seed is shaped by the choices you make. Your decisions determine how the seed evolves, or, to put it in another way, undergoes a transformation. Regardless of the path you choose, the culmination of your choices results in unique creatures that ultimately reverts back to being a seed again. I guess this is how you can describe this game, and there are so many different choices that it's a quite fun game to play around with the options you're presented. It's a good time killer.
End Roll
Is a adventure RPG game by Segawa made in the RPG Maker 2000. It has turn-based battles, 3 endings. Besides that, it is also a horror game and it's both creepy and disturbing. You play as a 14-year-old girl in a process of self-discovery. The game delves into themes of trauma, identity, and the fragility of the human mind. The disturbing elements serve to create an atmosphere of tension and unease, keeping the player on the edge as they unravel the truth behind Alex's existence and the twisted nature of the end roll. Throughout the eerie atmosphere, haunting visuals, and the narrative that challenges perceptions, end roll is definitely a deep and unsettling psychological experience that explores the darker aspects of human psyche.
4 Winds Fantasy.
This is an indie game that was released on the Xbox Live under the indie category. The game actually looks and sounds like garbage. I mean, it's a pretty good description of the game, but we need to take a closer look. 4 Winds Fantasy isn't about being a chosen hero saving the world in the name of justice and peace. No, you just have to settle some matters with your son. I mean, that's also important. A very good thing is that the game isn't very long and the gameplay is far from memorable. It's really just a weird action RPG. Also, weird looking characters will speak seemingly deep but nonsensical lines. I mean, it's a $1 game. It also has some bugs in the game and bad collision detection. So it's hard for me to tell if this game is generally some artistic masterpiece or really just garbage.
Strange Telephone.
This game was first released as a mobile game released in 2016, but later added on Steam with some extras. You take the control of a girl named Jill, trapped in a room with a locked door, accompanied by only a floating telephone called Graham. Dial any 6-digit number on Graham and you're transported to another world. With each world you visit, you will find new items and new numbers which can help you to travel to new dimensions. The game has some, let's say, bulky art style and it's definitely bizarre. Also, the game has 11 different endings which you can explore.
Of the Killer series.
Man, this series. So all the games of this series created by the Garment Districts are named the same way, like the heart of the killer, the blood of the killer, and so on. You get the idea. You play as a journalist and you keep track of all the weird things happening around you for your magazine. The games look like they are made in paint, but not in a bad way. And the game looks pretty cute overall, and it also uses 2D images in a 3D space. And the game has a lovely soundtrack, and from time to time it feels a bit nostalgic, if we are talking about the game Blood of the Killer.
Barclay Shut Up and Jam Gaiden.
So this game is an unofficial sequel to the Barclay Shut Up and Jam basketball game for the Sega Genesis. Barclay Shut Up and Jam Gaiden is an indie RPG game that combines elements of basketball and fantasy role-playing. It is set in a post-apocalyptic world where basketball has been banned and Charles Barkley, the legendary basketball player, is blamed for a catastrophic event known as the Chaos Dunk, where he killed a bunch of people. I mean, it's totally absurd, but that's the plot. There are a lot of things going on, from you being chased by Michael Jordan to many other things. And the game is something like a Super Mario RPG game. But why this game is so deep on the list? I don't know. I would guess because of the story.
Puss
Is a game where you play as a cat that is trapped in another dimension. The game has vaporware glitch art aesthetics, which is always good, I guess. The game was released in 2018 and released by the Team Coile In the game, you play as a small cat and you need to reach the end of the labyrinth without touching walls. After you accidentally touch the edges of a level, the game will start to glitch and the little cat will lose one of her 9 lives. If we need to put this game in the category, I would say it's a maze-like slash roguelike game. It's quite bizarre, fun, and it's a good game to pass your time.
Death of the Brain.
This game is explicit and has gory visuals. It's a novel game that falls into the horror genre. It follows a plot-driven storyline with elements inspired by 80s films. The original Death of the Brain was released for PC in 1992 with a sequel the following year on the PC Engine. By the time the port surfaced in 1999, the PC Engine market was long dead. I definitely adore the pixelated art style. The game explores themes of survival, moral dilemmas, and the length people are willing to go to stay alive in a world overrun by the undead. It delves into the darker aspects of human nature and tests the player's decision-making skills in high-stakes situations. It's a hidden gem, so to say, and definitely worth checking out if you're into point-and-click adventure games and love some classic horror games.
Kitty Horror Show games.
So the next one on this list is Kitty Horror Show games. So how can I describe this series? Well, Kitty Horror Show is an independent game developer known for creating unique atmospheric horror games. The game features minimalistic graphics and immersive sound design, focusing on creating a sense of unease, dread, rather than relying on jump scares or excessive gore. Kitty Horror Show games are known for the surreal and abstract storytelling, exploring themes such as isolation, existentialism, and the unknown. Kitty's unique approach to horror has gathered a dedicated following and has been praised for its distinct style and immersive atmosphere.
Alice is Dead.
Alice is Dead is a well-known flash game trilogy available on platforms like the Newgrounds, released in 2009, developed by Lore Storm Games. The game tries to take a fresh take on the classic Alice in Wonderland story like American McGee's Alice. I mean, it's not the first game to try this out, but it's always good when people have new inspiration to this story. After all, Alice in Wonderland is in the public domain. It combines beautiful drawn artwork with a cinematic atmosphere. Alice is Dead captures that old school Disney movie blending with elements of enchantment and unease. With a distinct visual style, atmospheric music, and clever reimagining of the beloved fairy tale, Alice is Dead has gained popularity among players who enjoy a mix of fantasy, wonder, and creepy horror.
Punk of the Fat Man.
The game was released in 1989 and published by Activision. The game was released for the Sega Genesis and Commodore 64, but also MS-DOS. The game takes place in a futuristic arena where bizarre fighters from different galaxies gather to battle each other. The characters are grotesque and exaggerated, each with its own distinct fighting style and abilities. From mutants to aliens, the roster of the fighters is diverse and very weird. The in-game currency is earned by completing a match, and the money earned can be increased through wagering. The game got much bad press back in the day, and the PC Gamer listed this game one of the 15 weirdest games of all time.
Helix 2.
This is the sequel to Helix 1, which we covered in the last year, I think. It's definitely your not everyday RPG game, or something you would see too often. Like in the previous layer, I said that the game is bizarre, and that's the strong point of this game. Art style is once again the same way, the collage of 3D scanned clay models and animations combined with a fuzzy rock soundtrack. This game is really stunning, and like the previous game, is definitely worth checking out, but this time this game cranks everything from the previous game to an 11. It's just better in every way. Just check the game out and immerse yourself in this beautiful game.
Red Tape.
Red Tape is quite a funny game in which you are an office worker in hell. And I don't know if there is some propaganda behind this game, but you are forced to find people and make them sign your petition. Before you realize, your plot reveals that you're a representative of an oil company, and because the devil's son didn't read the contract, you can start extracting oil from hell. And the oil company even buys all of hell and destroys all buildings in hell so they can extract even more oil. Quite weird, but the game is a bit tedious. I love the idea how they turn hell into a boring office. The art style is also quite good because it blends 2D characters with a 3D environment, and the game also features some pop culture references sprinkled throughout the game. And it has also some references to the best series out there, The Office.
Life tastes like a cardboard.
This game could be described as a walking simulator. Life Tastes Like Cardboard has pretty good reviews. In the game you take the role of John and battle with self-pity, and the game puts you in the head and heart of its creator. The game deals also with a life of repetition and boredom. Life Tastes Like Cardboard feels very relatable. The game feels like many games in the indie genre which deal with heavy subjects, just to be warned. The game also has a great soundtrack that really helps you to dive into the world of the game. Maybe some of you will dislike the somewhat simpler art style, but the game's story and music are worth trying this game out.
A Date in the Park.
This is a free Brazilian point-and-click psychological game made by Clock and Dagger, the same developer behind A Terrible Old Man. The game is inspired by the feeling of oddness in the everyday situation. You play as Lou, a British newcomer in Lisbon. After a chance, you encounter the woman of your dreams, and she invites you to meet her at a nearby park. You can say it's a date in the park. Ha! Also, the game seems to be partially autobiographical as the park really exists, but it's all fun and games until you found one box in which you find a human head. I mean, not the best gift to get. And then you start to realize that you're a hunt for a serial killer rather than a girlfriend. Also, there is a language barrier in the game because some of the characters speak Portuguese, even if the game is basically in English. And there is a plot twist at the end which I won't spoil, but it's quite good.
Tetrageddon.
This game is a bit hard to describe, it's more like a rabbit hole than a game. It's very chaotic, let's say. The game is a website where you can dive into other bizarre websites. The game takes place in a fictional operating system. It is created by Natalie Lowhead, and I need to give credit to Natalie for creating a very weird game. I don't know what else to say.
This is Infinity.
This is a very abstract game about exploring rules, graphics, goals, behavior, and interaction, created by Ludum Dare 16 with a theme of exploration, made in about 36 hours in 2009. And if you wanna have a seizure, here's a game for you. So if you're sensitive to flashing lights, this isn't the best game for you. Plus the game is more basically creative experiments dressed up as a game.
Ivan Zanottini Games.
Once again we are talking about a collection of games, this time created by Ivan Zanottini. If you're into weird and spooky, this is the right place for you. One of the games we already mentioned of this Iceberg, and that's a simple game called I'm Scared. Pretty simple, go to his site, check the games out, share the word.
Suits Absolute Power.
This is a sequel to a game we already talked about, and that's the game Suits. Suits Absolute Power takes once again that great hand-driven style and brings it to life in this sequel. It's a worthy follow-up to the previous game. It's improving in every way. Better story, more complex situations, characters and a great soundtrack. Sadly, this is a very overlooked game. It's definitely more edgy, but in a good way.
Happy World
is a game released by Jimmy Masurak. Maybe the game doesn't look too special at first glance. I mean, you're a blue disc with a face trying to restore happiness to the world. How charming. But the game has adorable simplistic art style and funny conversations between the player and the characters. But not everything is so happy after all. The game gets a twist and it has a darker tone later on. The game has great soundtrack, just to mention, and it sets a really great vibe. And Happy World marks the end of the first half of the layer 3 of the Iceberg chart. This is quite a challenging series to put out content for, mostly because of the research, but I hope you are satisfied with the results. Again, if you enjoyed the video, you know what you need to do. A like would help. Drop a comment down below about your favorite weird and surreal game. And yeah, that's all for this video. The next one will be out the next week, at least I hope. Until the next one, take care and bye.